The Detroit Pistons landed the ball handler that they needed at this deadline. I didn't know which one it was going to be, but they landed Dennis Schroder from the Utah Jazz, from the Golden State Warriors. It's a big deal. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Getting right into it, we've needed Dennis Schroder on this team. And I think a lot of it comes down to Jaden Ivey being hurt and Cade Cunningham having to manage a lot of the load when it comes to facilitating, as well as sometimes scoring for that bench unit. We're going to talk a little bit more where I see him fitting, but I first want to just say that he was traded for KJ Martin, Josh Richardson, and a second-round pick. I don't know what that second-round pick is. It might be the one they got, but obviously these are players that weren't on the Pistons. They're players who were rerouted from other trades that Trajan Langdon and the Detroit Pistons front office made. So this is kind of what I was talking about yesterday in one of my videos, where this is a lot about just getting assets for free, having your cap space, and then turning it into something that can help you. I have no doubt in my mind he's going to ball out here and be able to help us potentially get the 6th seed in these playoffs. But there are some things that happened this year that we can look at as direct evidence why it might be a little rocky, and maybe there's things that we need to figure out how it's going to work. Obviously, anytime you add a new player into the mix that has the ball in his hands, there's going to be a learning curve. But, I mean, there's an exact example from this year that we can take that might be some cause for concern. I don't want to be a total doomer about it as well. But looking at his stats in Brooklyn, he had the ball a lot. He was the main creator, main facilitator. He was the guy who ran the show there. 18.4 points per game, 6.6 assists per game, 38.7% from deep on 6.5 attempts per game. That's a high volume and a high percentage, especially when you're talking about 6.5 attempts per game. He ended up starting 23 of those 23 games. We're going to talk about his role on the Pistons, and we're going to come back to that point. But then he got moved to Golden State because they saw what he was doing. They saw how he could help Stephen Curry together on the court together, and as well when Curry needs to get on the bench and Dennis Schroder needs to lead things. So they traded for him, and the stats went down. Obviously, when you're going to a team with some other high-level scorers, you're going to lose some statistical points there. I mean, 10.6 points per game, 4.4 assists per game. He went down from 14 shots a game to 10, and from 3, 6.5 to 4.8. But what really concerns me is the percentage drops. 32% from 3 and 37 from the field. I'd be more interested to look at the shot chart from Brooklyn to Golden State, see how much was self-created, see how much is catch and shoot, kind of breaking that down a little bit more. That's going to be my homework next with this. But what Golden State brought him in to do is reminiscent of what Detroit's bringing him in to do. You have Cade Cunningham, who is the offensive engine. Are you going to start him instead of Tim Hardaway Jr.? Are you going to make it so they stagger and then play Schroder off the bench? I think his best role's off the bench, but you look at that, he started 23 out of 23 in Brooklyn and 18 out of 24 in Golden State. So I don't know if he's going to want to come to Detroit and then play off the bench. Obviously, a role's a role, and he's in the NBA, so hopefully they can get that all figured out. So, but that's just something to think about. Looking at the starting totals for each team. Andy's already spoken about being on the Pistons. There's a nice quote. He's had some media backlash for some comments. I don't want to talk about that right now, but I'm curious if he's just kind of trying to get some good PR here. It's great to be in the best league in the world. New opportunity to go out there and help a team make the playoffs. I guess the last point I want to make is, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, was I expected Lonzo Ball. I expected Trey Jones, a true facilitator. But in Trajan Langdon's eyes and the Detroit front office, they weren't looking for that. They were looking somebody who can not only help Cade Cunningham when he's on the bench and help facilitate for the team, but they're looking for somebody that can play with him. Such a young team such as the Pistons, you need continuity. So I'm almost hoping we can keep him and retain him for the future. But yeah, I'm really excited for this deal. It wasn't the biggest name out there, but I think it's definitely a name that the Pistons need to plug and play that's going to help them fight for that 6th seed. But overall, an impressive haul from the Pistons. They didn't have to give up anything, and they got Schroder, Waters, and 2 second-round picks. Go Pistons.